Hello, I'm Nick from Cardboard Reality, and today I will be teaching you how to play Everdell. Everdell is designed by James A. Wilson and published by Starling Games. It plays 1 to 4 players in about 40 to 80 minutes. So let's take a look at Everdell and I'll show you how to play. Before we get into the setup of Everdell, I just want to go ahead and clarify that I do have the Collector's Edition. So that means a couple things. At first, you're going to see this sleeve here. That comes with the Collector's Edition, and also the upgraded components that you see out here. These bowls are not included. For a link on where to purchase the bowls, check out the description down below. To begin setting up Everdell, the first thing you'll need to do is to place the board here on the table and then assemble the Evertree. For a visual guide on how to assemble the Evertree, please refer to the rulebook. Next, you'll want to take the 4 basic event tiles. You'll place the City Monument here, the Grand Tour boat here, the Harvest Festival goes here, and the Cartographer's Expedition will go here. Next, you'll want to go ahead and set up the workers. I am setting up for a 2-player game, so I only have 2 different types of workers in play. Go ahead and set each player's workers here on the Evertree as so. You'll want 1 of each player's workers for spring, 1 of each player's workers for summer, and 2 of each player's workers for autumn. You'll have 2 remaining workers for each player. Please set those aside in front of each player for now. They will be their starting workers for the game. Next, take the 16 special event cards and go ahead and shuffle them up. And then you will place 4 out here along the tree, like so. Next, you want to go ahead and place out your resources. Place the twigs here, the resin here, the pebbles here, and the berries here. Then take the point tokens and the occupied tokens and set them aside for now. Then you'll take the 11 forest cards and shuffle them up. In a 2-player game, you will place 3 out, like so. And in a 3 and 4-player game, you will go ahead and place an additional card here. Next, you'll want to take the critter and construction cards and shuffle them up and deal 8 to the meadow. And then you'll want to deal 5 to the first player, 6 cards to the second player, and if you're playing a 3 and 4-player game, 7 to the third and 8 to the fourth player. Take the remaining cards and place them in your draw pile within the Evertree. And that's the setup. And the first player that goes is the most humble player, and then play proceeds clockwise around the table. On your turn, you simply take 1 of 3 actions, and then play proceeds to the next person in turn order. Those 3 actions are either placing a worker, or you can play a card from your hand or from the meadow, or finally you can prepare for a new season. Let's go in depth on each action and take a deeper look. On your turn, if you decide that you want to place a worker as your action, then you can go ahead and look for these worker placement spots on the board. You'll see 2 distinct different spots. So first you see this paw print with a open circle. If you look closely at the bottom there, it's not filled in. That is a worker placement spot that any worker can go to. So multiple workers from different players, or even 2 of the same players, could go here and collect these rewards. From this spot, you would take 1 resin and draw a card from the draw deck. The next type of spot you can see is the closed circle paw print. This is a spot that only 1 worker can ever go to. So if a worker went here and took 2 resin, then no other worker could go there until this worker gets removed. More on that later. The next worker placement spot I want to draw your attention to are the forest cards. So in a 2-player game, you can only place workers here on the left side of the card. If you look closely here, that 4-player symbol means only in a 4-player game can you actually place workers here. So a 2 and a 3-player game, only on this side of the card can you play. When you place a worker here, no one else can go to that location. If you were to play a 4-player game, you could not place another worker here of the same player color, but a worker of a different player color could go here. These cards are variable and usually fairly good. You see here, this one's going to give you 3 card draws and 1 pebble. This one will give you 2 of any good, so you basically just choose the goods you want. The next two worker placement locations I'd like to draw your attention to are the journey location and the haven location. So for the journey location, when you place a worker in one of the spots, you will discard 3 cards, for instance in this spot, to receive 3 victory point coins from the supply. If you went to this spot, you would discard 2 cards to receive 2 points, and so on. As a reminder, this is an open spot, so any number of workers from any player caller can go here. These are all closed, so only 1 worker per location. Also to note here, you can only take these actions in autumn. So until you get to autumn, these actions are not available. For the haven, you can take this at any point in the game, and this is an open worker placement spot, so any number of workers from any player caller can go here. Basically, you would just discard any card from your hand. For every 2 cards you discard, you gain 1 wild resource. Another worker placement location is the destination card. As you will be playing through the game, you will be placing cards into your tableau. If you ever get a destination card in your tableau, then you can place a worker on these worker placement spots. Destination cards are denoted by the red banner and the red paw print. If, for instance, this one is in my tableau, I could place a worker here, and I would simply take the action that it says. Same with this end card. However, there is a difference. This end card, if you can see right here, it says in small text open, and here it says nothing. So the cards that say open, if this is in my tableau, another player could place their worker in that spot. If they were to place their worker in that spot, I would simply take 1 point token from the supply and put it in my play area. That is a victory point at the end of the game. If the card does not say open, only you can take that worker placement spot if it's in your tableau, no other player. The final worker placement locations are the event locations. You have the basic event locations down below and the special event locations up above here. To place a worker on a event location, you have to meet the criteria before placing your worker. So for the basic events, as you can see with like the Harvest Festival, for instance, you need to have 4 green cards in your tableau. Once you meet that requirement, you can place your worker here. Anytime you place your worker on either event, basic event or special event, you take that item and place it in your player area. You do not remove your worker from that location until after you change seasons or until the game is over. For the basic events, you just basically need to meet the criteria. Like I said, 4 green for the tableau, in your tableau. Here for the Cartographer's Expedition, you need to place 3 brown cards in your tableau. Once you meet that criteria, you can place a worker there. 3 red for the Grand Tour, and 3 blue for the City Monument. For the special event cards, you need to meet the requirement at the top of the card. This one says you need a teacher and university in your tableau. If you have those 2 cards in your tableau, you can place your worker here to collect this event card. The next action you can take on your turn is playing a card. You can either play a card from your hand or from the meadow. Regardless of how you play the card, whether it's from your hand or the meadow, you simply pay the resources located in the top left of the card and then place it into your tableau. You can only ever have a total of 15 cards in your tableau unless a card effect changes that. When you play a card from the meadow, you simply remove it, put it in your tableau, and then take a card from the draw pile and replenish the meadow. So let's take a closer look at the card anatomy. If I wanted to play the Twin Barge card into my tableau, I would have to pay 1 twig and 1 pebble. And then I would simply place it in my tableau. If I played it from my hand, it would just go into my tableau. If I played it from the meadow, it would go into my tableau and I would fill in the spot on the meadow. This here is a victory point. You would count that at the end of the game. Here, it'll note that this is a construction, and here, this will note that this card is a critter. Those are the 2 types of cards in the game. Constructions will help you make critters for free. If I had this construction, which is a twin barge, in my tableau, if you look closely here, it says that I could make a barge toad for free. So on my turn, if this card was in my tableau, I could simply place a token here, and then place the barge toad out for free, not having to pay the 2 berry cost. Another thing I should note is that some constructions are considered common, same for critters, and some are unique. Common constructions and critters you can have any number of in your tableau. If it's a unique construction or critter, you can only have one of each in your tableau. If this token is placed here, you can no longer build a barge toad for free with the use of this twin barge card. There are 5 card types in the game. The first card type is the green production card type. If you play one of these cards into your tableau, you immediately gain the resources or whatever it is denoted here. And then anytime you were to change season into spring or change a season into autumn, you would also trigger that as well. More on that later. Another type of card you can play is the Tan Traveler card. If you play the Tan Traveler cards, you immediately take what it tells you to, and then that's it. It's a one and done kind of card, and then it's just taking up a spot in your tableau, but it will score you victory points at the end, and having these cards in your tableau can help you complete events as well. The next type of card are the red destination cards. I've already talked about those. Essentially, they are the worker placement spots. The next type of card is the blue governance cards. These cards are passive bonuses that trigger throughout the game, and they can also offer you a discount. Last are the purple prosperity cards. These cards are going to help you score victory points in a number of different ways throughout the game. Another quick thing to note is card draws. If it tells you to draw a card, you always draw from the draw deck, unless it specifies drawing from the meadow. And you can only ever draw up to 8 cards. 8 cards is your hand limit. If you were ever to exceed that, you simply would not draw a card. If you are required to give cards to an opponent and all opponents' hands are full, discard the cards instead. If an ability allows players to draw cards from the meadow cards, draw all cards first and then replenish. If the deck ever runs out, you simply shuffle the discard pile to form a new deck. The third and final action you can take on your turn is preparing for a new season. At the beginning of the game, you start off in late winter. Once you decide that you want to go on to spring, this can be at any point during the game, or once you have no other action to take. You simply take the prepare for a new season action. You're going to recover all of your workers from the board and play area and put them back in front of you. You'll also collect 1 worker of your player caller from the spring column, and then you'll take the denoted bonus here. This means that you're going to score all of your green cards again, so they'll run again. So if your green card gave you 1 berry, you would get another berry. When you go to summer, you get an additional worker of your player caller, and then you draw 2 meadow cards. You don't fill in the meadow until after you pick your 2 cards from the meadow, and you put those cards in your hand, preventing other players from being able to play those cards. Finally, when you decide to go to autumn, you're going to gain 2 more workers, and you're going to run your green production cards 1 more time. And then at the very end of the game, when you decide that you're ready to prepare for a new season, obviously there's no more seasons to prepare for, it is now winter. You go ahead and pass permanently, and you end the game for yourself. Now, one thing that makes Everdell interesting is that you don't actually have to wait on other players when you go to a new season. You can start spring 2 rounds before another player starts spring, and so on. You may end the game 3 rounds before another player ends the game. That doesn't necessarily mean you're doing better or worse, that just means you play differently. Once you decide to end the game, you collect your victory points and score and wait for the remaining players that are still in play to finish as well. Finally, to tally up the victory points to see who the winner is, you simply count up the point values on the cards themselves, the point tokens that you've gathered throughout the game, the purple prosperity bonuses, the journey points from the journey action location, and the events. The player with the most victory points at the end of the game is the winner. In case of a tie, the player who has the most events wins, and in case of a further tie, the player with the most resources at the end of the game is the winner. And that is how you play Everdell. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hopefully you found that Rules Teach helpful. Let me know what you thought down below. Also, don't forget to subscribe, and if you haven't, check out our audio podcast. You can find everything Cardboard Reality over at cardboardrealitypodcast.com. For a link, check out our description below. Thank you so much. I'm Nick. See you later.